Hello there, and welcome back. We're going to continue our discussion of topic four with the uh, Northern Renaissance that took place a little bit later after the Italian Renaissance in Northern Europe, places like what's now Belgium, Germany, England, those places. Okay, so here we go. All right, so where the Renaissance began to spread, particularly along trade routes, one of the places that it went to in Northern Europe was a region called Flanders, which is now in the northern part of France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. They had a connection with Italy that goes back in well into the Middle Ages. And so, as they're trading with the Italians, obviously these ideas that are being generated in Italy are going to start to spread there. So Belgium was or the Flanders rather, was very urban. So there's a lot of wealth that was there to start with, and everybody's concentrated in cities. So this movement spread very, very rapidly, through Flanders, and then into other places like Germany, into France, and into England. Some of the most famous artists of this time period um, are from Flanders. Jan van Eyck, who is associated with using oil paints, some remarkably detailed paintings. We're going to look at an example called The Marriage of Count Arnolfini that shows you the details that you can get with oil paints. Another painter of this time period that was noted for looking at everyday scenes, not just important people, but regular people, peasants, was a man named Peter Bruegel. And so his paintings also are oil and show a remarkable amount of detail. We get little glimpses into the world of what life was like in the 1400s in Northern Europe. There's a very famous German artist of this time period who was a painter, but he's mainly remembered for his engravings, Albrecht Dürer, who did some remarkably detailed woodcuts that were used in books, particularly the Bible, other things, and again, it's woodcuts, but the detail and attention to anatomy is just remarkable. So we're going to look at some examples of that too. The humanism of Italy also comes northward too and begins to mix with northern ideas, particularly about religion. So this was an example of how a secular idea gets pulled into a religious movement, but it's still kind of secular. Okay, so this Christian humanism is looking back at the classical past, but looking at the classical past when Christians were around. So what did the early Christian fathers have to say about the church and about their teachings and about what they believed? So they wanted to look back at that early past and try to get back to some of the early ways that Christians were doing things, to rediscover that past and to apply it to their lives. So it wasn't just about the next world. It was about making Christianity more practical and livable in this life. So in a sense, it was secular too. Two of the greatest humanists of this time period that we're going to be looking at is a man from the Netherlands called Desiderius Erasmus. His most famous work, or one of his most famous works, was called Praise of Folly, where he is looking at the perceived folly, the perceived foolishness that people have of living good moral lives, when in reality they're the people that are making the wisest choices. So a very, very influential man in all of Northern Europe, and particularly with the second person, Sir Thomas More, who was fairly important in English society. He was the Chancellor of England, which is kind of like the president or the prime minister in that time period. His work, Utopia, outlines what he considered to be a perfect place, which in reality was criticizing what England was like at that time period. So both of these men were extremely influential, and their works are still read today. You can still find them on bookshelves and bookstores. Um, there are a couple of other people that wrote literature that we would consider to be more popular entertainment. Erasmus and More were more intellectual. Francois Rabelais and William Shakespeare wrote more for ordinary people. So these are books and plays that explore human nature and things that we still find interesting and fascinating today. Many of Shakespeare's works have been turned into movies, and they're still played today. They're still studied today. He's probably the most influential English writer to come out of this time period. So, in all kinds of plays. So, you could really name or mention several that are associated with him. And one huge movement that started in Northern Europe was the discovery or invention, rather, of movable type. Johann Gutenberg, who took printed or woodcuts that were being used to print things and worked with the idea of the printing press, and then eventually developed the little um, uh, types, the letters and symbols that were used that you could individually put together to form words, make pages, and then take those same letters and rearrange them and make another page. You can start to print all kinds of materials and get information out there in a very rapid way. You can see from these statistics how that you went from having just really thousands of books that were made every year to millions of books and hundreds of millions of books. So once you invent the printed word, it's hard to control things. You know, the word today that we use is things go viral when things go widespread. And so ideas and information start to spread rapidly. It's cheaper to produce it, and you can produce a lot of it and get it out there. You can't control it at that point. So, you know, it's like today, if something goes on the internet, it's there forever. Once something is printed and released, it's pretty much out there too. So that was a remarkable and important discovery that was made in Europe during the Renaissance. So, and Johann Gutenberg was responsible for it. So, and again, some information here. I mean, mass production of books, you know, literacy rates start to go up. People begin to read, you know, information is available. People want more information. So really the roots of what we have today of being the information age, it starts back in the late 15th century with Gutenberg. So anyway, that concludes the notes for lesson 2. As always, you know, read lesson 2. You have a reading check for this. Make sure that you ask questions. And of course, you can always email me or bring things up in class if you need to. So thank you very much. And I will see you in a little bit for lesson 3. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.